Hello, everyone. This is Independent Conservative. Thank you all for joining me once again. I want to talk about something that really caught my attention here. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but I've been trying to find some cross references from conservative sources, and I haven't been able to find this. And maybe it could be some bias on the side of conservative sources. I don't know. But apparently, from the Newsbreak article that I was reading, that President Trump has signed an executive order that would essentially force homeless people, or essentially homeless people will be forced off the streets and placed in types of like mental institutions or places to get help. If they refuse, if they refuse, they're going to be forced. That's essentially the executive order that was signed into law. I mean, Trump supposedly signed this. Now, I had the audio of this, about 50 seconds of it, and I had just did a video a few minutes ago in reference to this, and all of a sudden the video shut off. I had to start all over again. That makes me sick, man. This computer is a piece of trash. Pray for me, okay? All right. So I can't find that audio clip. It's like 50 seconds, and it's essentially, I guess, in the 50-second audio clip, Trump is speaking on, I'm sorry, not Trump, but some news reporter is speaking on Trump signing his executive order. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to read a few lines out of this article, and we're going to get into a discussion as to whether or not I think this is a good thing or a bad thing or whatever, okay? So it says, Ohio housing advocates spoke out against President Donald Trump's recent executive order that would force those experiencing homelessness off the streets by committing them to mental health institutions or drug treatment centers without their consent. Trump issued an executive order last week titled, quote, "Ending Crime and Disorder on American Streets," shifting homeless individuals into long-term institutional settings for humane treatment through the appropriate use of civil commitment will restore public order, according to Trump's executive order. But this could lead to more people experiencing homelessness, housing advocates say. Now, this is their argument, okay? There currently are no facilities to do this type of treatment within the state of Ohio, or that could help people in the way that it's requesting. So it would only leave people on the streets longer as they wait for services that don't exist, said Coalition on Homelessness. Whenever I hear the term coalition, I always go, coalition. Who's funding these coalitions, right? Anyway, and Housing in Ohio Executive Director Amy Regal said, "The executive order goes against Housing First, a homeless assistance approach that was first adopted federally during the George W. Bush administration, which prioritizes housing without any prerequisites. That's what I'm reading in this article from Newsbreak. Apparently, that executive order, prioritize housing without any prerequisites, such as sobriety or participation in treatment. Let's start right there. Okay, now, let's have just a brief discussion here. Is this extreme? Is it extreme to force people that are homeless into these mental institutions? Now, this person of the Coalition of Homeless Advocates or whatever, I understand their argument that there aren't enough facilities to meet that demand. I mean, if you start taking these homeless people off the street, right, and putting them in these institutions, how are you going to do that when there aren't much of these institutions around? I get that argument. I get that right there. But let me just throw something out here. My personal experience and observations as a security officer working in downtown Cleveland, and I've been dealing with this for years. I mean, years, okay? Not all homeless people are like this, but a decent number of homeless people where I live in downtown Cleveland defecate in front of businesses, urinate in front of businesses. They're disrespectful. They're ornery. I've heard of cases where homeless people have assaulted regular working people, even robbed them. I work at the May Company building at downtown Cleveland. I have to do tours. And sometimes my tours take place outside. there is a street on the side of the building called First Street Alley. I detest going down that alley to hit the button because there's two buttons I got to hit. Well, actually, I'm sorry. There's one button I have to hit that's on a fence outside. I detest going out there mainly because there's defecation all on the side or on the sidewalk. I'm just going to be real with you. I know this is kind of graphic. Condoms all over the place. I go out here and there's people all on the side engaging in sex sometimes. I hate going out there. And some of these people are homeless, if not a vast majority of them. If they're not homeless, some of them are prostitutes and crackheads and all the rest. Okay. This is what I observe. This is what I have to deal with. And then I have to say, well, sir or ma'am, could you move from over here in front of the building? Because like in the May company, there's a door that allows, people that work for a living, that are living there, paying $2,000 in rent. Okay. Sometimes I go out when I'm doing my tours, they're sitting in front of the doorway, blocking the doorway, which makes no sense to me because clearly you would think, okay, don't these people have sense enough to think that this is a doorway where people enter in and exit out, and you sitting in front of the doorway, blocking people? Should they have a right to do that? No, they should not have a right to do that, regardless of what their plight is. That's wrong for them to do that. And they'll be defecating. They'll be engaging in sex. I'm not making this stuff up. Some of them are homeless. Some of them are not. Some of them, like I said, are crackheads. I hate to use that term. I'm sorry if it sounds harsh. But some are drug addicts. You name it. I'm not going to go into detail of that. And some of them are very disrespectful. Some of them sit in front of the businesses, and people that want to come and buy food or buy whatever they want to buy, they can't do it because homeless people is sitting in front of the business doors, won't let them in. Homeless people like that, who are essentially a menace to society, yes. If they refuse to change and they refuse to get better and they're causing major problems, and they're cognitive of this, even if they're not cognitive of it, why would you allow someone who's mentally ill to be a danger to themselves and a danger to everyone else and say, well, you know what? I'm not going to mess with them because I don't want to force it. Okay, but what ends up happening? What ends up happening, and I've seen this done several times, is someone ends up deleting them. Oh yes, several homeless people that were a menace to society got deleted. I don't know who did the deleting. Okay, but you know what I mean? Got deleted because they were such a menace. They were so, these people, whatever drugs that they were messing with, it messed their brains up. They weren't able to think right. And they was a hot mess. Walking around with the pants down. I'm telling you, playing with themselves. I know this is graphic, but I'm just telling you my own personal observations and experiences and things that I've had to deal with. Playing with themselves in front of the crowds and kids and so forth. Are you just going to let these people just sashay around because you feel sorry for them? See, this is the part that kind of frustrates me about the liberal establishment, because what the liberal establishment argues is that, hey, these people are homeless because of the high cost of living, and they're not the government is not addressing affordable housing and all of this. In other words, the liberal establishment blames homelessness on capitalism and on everyone else, and not the person. Now, could that be true? To some extent, yes. I'm pretty sure some people that have lost their houses and so forth because they couldn't afford to pay the rent or whatever, and then they ended up losing their houses. But if we do our research and do our studying, and I've dealt with this on a personal level, I've had to deal with people like this. A decent number of these homeless people are homeless because of bad choices that they made, and now they're suffering the consequences of those choices. Why should I be held responsible for that? I had nothing to do with it. Most of the people in the cities had nothing to do with that homeless person's dealing with the consequences of bad choices that they made. But this is what the liberal establishment would try to push. I'm not making this type of stuff up. Okay. Now, in that sense, I agree with it. Some of these homeless people need to be taken off the streets. If they're a menace to society and they're hurting people and they're defecating in front of businesses and defecating in front of buildings and so forth that people live in and having sex in front of it and all the rest, food, come on, man, stop it. Man, I'm not going to even try to tell you guys the tales that I have, the stories that I've experienced on downtown Cleveland. I didn't just start working there yesterday. I've been dealing with this stuff for years. Okay, so in terms of the facility, now the advocate argues, well, we don't have the facilities for that, this, that, and the other. Well, all our tax money, see, here's the problem. These liberal politicians and liberal city council members take our tax money and push all these other programs to help these people by giving them housing and all this kind of stuff. But these people need help. They need help up here. They don't need a home. They need help. Most of these people are psychologically damaged for whatever reasons. They don't need housing. They need help. They need psychological, psychiatric help. They need medication. That's what they need. And a lot of these people, as I said earlier, out here in the streets causing all kinds of problems for everyone else and refusing to get help. This is what I see all the time. And then they refuse to get help. No, in that sense, it should be forced. It should be mandatory because they're a danger to themselves and they're a danger to society. And if they keep being this kind of danger, they're going to end up getting deleted. I'm just telling you what I see. Guy got one of several years ago, a homeless guy, everyone knew him. I'm not going to say his name. Everyone knew him, but he was a menace, scaring people and all kinds. I'm not going to go into the detail. And it got to the point where he ended up doing something he shouldn't have done. And a group, from what I heard from the grapevine, a group of young people captured him and, beat him to. You feeling? I'm trying to be careful with my word usage here on YouTube. Okay, but they beat him to. Now he's not with us. Stuff like that. Yes, I agree. Okay. If the person voluntarily does it, that's different. But if they're a menace to society, based on what I just mentioned, and they're not trying to do anything to help themselves, then law enforcement should find some way to place them somewhere in a mental institution. Now, in terms in a place where they can get help, rather, to answer what this advocate of homelessness, whatever this person was saying, well, he's not addressing affordable housing, or rather, it's not addressing the fact that we don't have the facilities for this. Take our tax money that y'all have, okay, that you taxing me to the gazoo for, and build these facilities. You building everything else. You've expanded the welfare state. Have you not? Have you not? Almighty liberal establishment, you have done that. Why don't you take some of that money and build facilities for these people? It can be done. And let me say this too. This person said, we don't have the facilities to put these people in there. Okay, well, I'm pretty sure that the Trump administration will give you guys money to do that. I guarantee you they will. Because after all, it's a facility, it's an executive order that he signed. So I'm pretty sure he's going to help facilitate it by giving you guys money. So there's no excuse. It's just that people want to feel sorry for everyone that's out here being a menace to society and menaces themselves to the point where it's getting unbearable. And in that situation, I think they should be forced off. Okay, because something bad is going to happen if nothing is done. Something bad is going to end up happening, either by that the homeless people initiating harm on other people, or other people initiating harm on the homeless people who refuse to get help. So that's my word on that. I know some people might think that's harsh, but I tried to explain that in the most nicest way that I possibly could. But I'm just telling you guys some what I personally know and personally experience where I live and what I deal with in my line of work. So I agree with it in that aspect. If people voluntarily want to get help, that's different. But those who are a menace to society and the ministers themselves who refuse to get help, no, they should be forced. That's just my opinion. So what do you guys think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, subscribe to my channel. God bless you all. See you again.